Evening, y'all. Welcome to another Lockdown Live Chat. As usual, joined with my awesome co-host, the purveyor of all things Draconem Media, Mr. Alec Lyle. How's it going?
Oh, what's up, man? Yeah, it's good. I can't believe it's like so long that we've had this lockdown now. You know, it's kind of crazy to think we're halfway through January in 2021 and we're still in our like five week lockdown. But it's all good, man. It's led to us being able to talk shit about metal on a weekly basis. So
no regrets. Before we start, I actually need to apologize to you. Last week, I completely butchered the name of your new band with fellow members of Sordid and Amentum and Cerdus. This is Sepulchre of Man, not yes. Sepulchre of Man. So, like, Alec is a very humble guy. He doesn't usually speak out much with this unless you say something completely wrong. And then after our chat last week, he just politely said, by the way, you completely shat on the name. So Sepulchre of Man, Curtain Call, their new single's out now. Go check it out. We'll have it in the description right about now. Anyway, with that being said, we're joined by a member of a band that's a lot more pronounceable. Today, we're joined with extreme metal frontman from The Drift. We're joined with Louis. How's it?
Hello. The working title of the band was called The Derp, and even all even our master CD says The Derp on it, like The Derp 1, The Derp 2, The Derp 3. So that's just how we were known. Nobody ever asked about the genesis of the name. There's a pub down the road here called The Drift, and it's in Mildersdrift. And I was also sort of into listening to really weird esoteric nonsense music by guys like Scott Walker, and then he had an album called The Drift, and I thought, well, that justifies it, you know. So it wasn't like, hey, let's crib off of Scott Walker's homework. I don't know, like I like short names. I have a short attention span. We also, back in the TV show days, we made a lot of fun of bands with phrases for names or verb to nouns or whatever else. Sorry, Alec, if you have a new three-word entity for a band name, so nice and short. I mean, so I know you didn't ask, but time is limited, so I'm just going to do the whole interview on by myself.
To be fair, that was actually my first question. So, Alec, what's your next one?
Next question. Let's go.
Yeah. So, for people that might not have heard The Drift before, how would you exactly describe your genre or your sound or whatever you really want to label it? Because your early stuff had like a lot of like groove metal influences, but now I hear more like sludge and doom coming through.
We take crowbar songs and we play them backwards, and then we add like very long bridges and outros, and that's basically what we do. I don't know. It actually isn't that far from that. I don't know. It started off as sludge, and I think there was just less power chords, you know, as the albums went by. Obviously, there's a ton of power chords everywhere, but there was a little bit more stuff. I don't know. It became a little bit more elaborate. The nature of it being the groovy, sludgy side means that the songs are naturally a little bit longer because you just take longer to get to the point. But I don't know. The first album I basically wrote by myself. The second album was more of a group effort, you know, like I would come in with stuff and then everyone else kind of responds to that stuff. And then the third album was a bit more painstakingly involving everyone, which is probably why it went from ripping off Crowbar to being a rip-off of many things by the time we got to album 3.
Yeah, well put. I mean, I guess we got the proper first taste of what the album ended up being, Seer, when you performed in Cape Town for Summerfest 2020, I believe, was last year's Summerfest. Yeah, but and then everything went to hell.
But before we step away from the Summerfest conversation, we've played Summerfest twice now. The first time I could not remember my name, and the second time I was dead sober. And as far as I can tell, they both went down exactly the same. So sobriety doesn't matter.
No, as long as you got the energy live, I guess that's all that matters. But I mean, I think for you guys, that must have been quite an exciting concert. Obviously, before knowing about COVID, you guys obviously went into that with, okay, we get to test out some new material. The album's just come out. So were there any like tracks from the Seer album that you were really amped on actually playing live? And I mean, I guess the reaction was like brutal. You guys closed the night off perfectly, but were there any standouts?
Okay, so what are the rules of the podcast? May I use naughty words on the podcast?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start off by saying fuck Nathan McClure for this reason. Ruckshire guy, he lives in Joburg now. What he did is that he decided when the first Wall of Death was going to happen, and this always happens to us, where somebody in the audience decides that next song is the Wall of Death song. It's like, well, actually, no, the next song is kind of slow in tempos, and we don't really have a logical time. But okay, now the crowd's decided, so now you just kind of have to wing it. And we played very late, and Nathan came up for a second Wall of Death because the first one went down so well. Now, this is, Joburg, we like to be in bed by 9. In Cape Town, the stamina is a little bit better. However, because the sun never goes down. However, these people have been drinking since, I would guess midday. So if you call for a Wall of Death at 1:30 in the morning, it's like, like there wasn't enough tick going around to get that going for a second time. So the crowd just kind of slumped into each other. So live from the new album, and it's not even that new. I mean, we finished it in May in 2000 Footsack. When was Weird Boner 3? That year. And I was just finishing Buttfighter, and says, guys, we'll launch it next year. I just got to finish a video game. And then we played with Volvadinia in February, and then I said, cool, album launch in March. No album launch. Yeah. No launches at all. So your question, what do I like to play live? Of that album, I love to play Don't Forget to Breathe, because it's just like a sludge and a punk song kind of meshed together. And there's a song on there called Reclaim This World, which is just like a slow, fat, caveman headbangy song. And then there's a song on there called Funeral Man, which we just didn't play live, which is really sad because it was one of those, that song was it was one of my babies. And I was like, if we don't play it right, we're not playing it live. And we didn't know what the reviews were going to say, but that's a song everyone really liked. It's like, oh, this is clearly the first signal. It's like, derp, we got that wrong. The derp, number 3. Wrong song, wrong single.
You guys recently, well, when I say recently, it's recently in COVID times, added my namesake to the Drift.
Yes.
Did Mr. Alec contribute to the writing process on the latest album, or is he more going to be involved on your next sort of release?
So what's happening now? So to answer your question, yes and no, because he took over from Steph that had his own stuff. So the rhythm stuff was pretty much set for a long time before he joined. But there was a lot of stuff that Steph was playing that the rest of us didn't know how to play. So we kind of hospital passed it to Alex, like, yeah, figure it out, or write your own stuff. So that's kind of what Alec either try to, listen to cell phone recordings or just rewrite his own versions for stuff. So yes and no. He did his own interpretation of stuff that's already there. Currently, the 4 dudes are active without me at the moment because I have reasons to just, not participate with band stuff at the moment. Nothing to do with the band dudes. So, I miss it very much, but, other responsibilities at the moment. So, and I'm often the loudest voice in the room, and I often come to the room with like a verse, chorus, bridge structure already. So now is the first time that everyone else can kind of dig in and write their own stuff. And I said, look, if the stuff that you're writing isn't the Drift, then it's not. Then just start something else, If it is the Drift, then send it to me when you're done. So it's again, I think in COVID, it's very good to manage your expectations as well. If you base a lot of your happiness and dependency of meaning on when you're able to participate with crowds again, you're going to be disappointed. So I think it's good to just objectively kind of cut yourself off, and not take it personally. So Alec did interpretations on the Seer recording, and now it's everyone's time, including Alec's time, to kind of contribute musically to stuff. And again, you also kind of have to go through the ringer because on the surface, Chaos Doctrine and The Drift are two shouty heavy metal bands, but they're very different in regards to just what your hands, what your hands are doing, like how your right hand and how your left hand plays. It's like when Alec was contributing solos, geez, he's gonna hate me for saying this, but it's always like, dude, play less, because he's always coming there and we have these kind of like gun, like caveman riffs, and it's all about the bend, and it's all about picking the note and then sliding into it and getting that vibrato in. So if you like going, it's just not going to work over that. So you really kind of like, your solos have to really be a counter melody or be an atmospheric thing. Take the solo from Strength Beyond Strength by Tempora. Like that first solo, which is more just like a mood setter. You still do, you still pull the face, but it's not a million notes. It's not a million notes, a 4-bar measure. It's a case of no, just get in there and get people's eyes to roll in the back of their heads. Like that's, so he had to, and that's what he was into as well. Again, I know it's a very long answer because I'm a very terse chap. But that's what he was excited about, because Chaos Doctrine has very much got a thrash industrial, very kind of precise, and like its intensity is very specific. Like, and we kind of draw a lot to like the doomy stuff and the getting lost in the tune kind of stuff, and that really makes your hand has to relax a little bit when you play that stuff. So Alec would come off the Chaos Doctrine boat and go, "All right, guys, I'm ready." It's like, no, dude, just like slow down, take your shoes off.
Alec, never change, Mr. Surridge. What a madman. So yeah, you mentioned earlier that that the first 2 albums were more conceived and constructed by you. Kind of brings me onto a bit of a segue of a question. You pretty much only have the new album. I don't know if the new single from the Fangs compilation is on there, but it's only available on Spotify, the Seer album, but not the 2 previous albums. Is there any reason for that? Simple question.
Lack of admin. The first album was released through Electro Mode, and they did all that stuff. And again, I listened to that first album, and there's a lot of stuff that I would change about it. And again, when you listen to it and you're like, do I really want to upload this? Nah. I don't know. I guess it's just not being a slave to your content. So Jason took over the digital uploading stuff on the 3rd album, and that's why you find it everywhere, because I'm the kind of self-loathing dude that'll kind of go, this is good enough for Bandcamp. Bandcamp can get this up. This one is good for Reverb Nation. You guys can get the first album or whatever it may be. No, like I think that the first album is probably on iTunes, and it actually did quite well on iTunes. I just remember.
I think Morning Star is also, but yeah.
The
Mountain Star. My correction.
I mean, a lot of stuff, but I mean, also like this is like a conversation of no consequence. But after we played a opening slot for a big international band, Water Music, by the advice of the singer of the dude we opened for, said, okay, we were kind of told to talk to you about it, and then Warner Music became Roadrunner, and then Roadrunner, I can name names, I'm not going to name names. They were like, okay, we'd love to do this, and you're on board, and you're definitely going to get signed. And then later on, the guy, I remember where I was sitting outside practice at Music Connection, where the band room used to be, the best band room. And the guy just told me, like, hey, there's nothing we can do for you that you can't do for yourselves, and you don't have to give up any of your profit. There's a part of me that was like 12 that says, dude, I don't care. I just want Roadrunner on the side of the CD. Take all the money. I don't care. It's not about money. It's about somebody bigger than you going, well done, Pat, well done. You've been validated. I don't care about the profits. And they were like, yeah, look, we got Coldplay to release, so suck it, and then, that was the end of that conversation. So that's why there's a lot of kind of jankiness in regards to releasing the platforms. And again, I'm not interested in that shit. I like making this stuff. And again, the business side afterwards, I lose interest so quickly with, hey guys, we got to do an alert on Apple Music or Bandcamp or whatever it may be. Oh, MySpace, we can get some downloads out of MySpace. I don't care. Release it, get it out of there. Never want to hear it again. There's only one thing that I've recorded that I listened to after it was released, and it's not even a Drift album. That's something you should all go download right now. We have a side project called SSIK, SSIK. Go download that immediately. It's free. That's some good shit. We recorded that in a weekend, and I still listen to it with a smile on my face. Next question.
Yeah, let's talk the sort of recording process, because unlike me and most of our guests, and you and I, Louis, have discussed this before, but you opt for like a more high-end process. How do you deal with, well, this question's like twofold. So how do you deal with nerves approaching the studio, knowing that time is money and all that jazz? And secondly, you now got a guy that is doing mixing and mastering for other bands, and basically one of his bands has all the recording studio sort of equipment. Do you think you're going to go more that route for future material?
I think it just depends. Essentially, my opinion is my own, and what I'm about to say is definitely going to alienate me with a few people, because the blue collar DIY approach, I love DIY, but I got this from Nick from 16 Stitch, later Newtown Knife Gang. He's got all the studios. I mean, he part owns Audio Militia, which is one of the best recording studios, but he says when he goes to the studio, or when I go to a gig, I want to be a drummer. And I love that. I don't want to hassle with the stuff. And I remember hating the guitar tone on one of the recordings, probably the second one, and the playing, also hated the playing. And it was like the guitarists were fine with it. I wasn't. So I did a freelance job to pay for a re-record. Because again, at the end of the day, I'm not that interested in money. Luckily, I've got a skill set that from time to time allows me to get lucky and get some work in to go, all right, how much is it going to cost to re-record guitars? 10 grand. How much is this, fuck off Bleacy card promo for Cake Neck going to cost me? 10 grand. Perfect. Let's re-record the guitars. Let's get, and then JP from B Sharp would also be like, yeah, cool. I'm glad we're redoing this, because we kind of dialed in the tone halfway through. So, dude, it's a ball ache. But again, if you don't love the process of recording, then, don't bank your happiness in the success of your heavy metal band from South Africa going big, because you're going to be disappointed. You might go supernova, but at the end of the day, if you don't like spending time in studio, then don't do it. And I find that one of us twiddling the knobs, it takes away the enjoyment. So I don't know what I don't know if I've answered all of the facets of the double-ended question. If there's anything I missed, remind me. But again, I've now recorded, between the Drift and SSIK, there's been 4 albums, and 2 of them I've done sober. And honestly, I like both. There's pros and cons to being sober and not being sober at all. I remember Nave recordings, I just absolutely detested. Like when you leave the studio during a Nave recording, you just want to quit. And I think that's a good sign whether you should be doing this with your spare time or not. I think the studio is a good test of, hey, I enjoy my hobby or I don't.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that mixed with actually doing an extensive tour really, tests the muscle of the band, and the mental duress, But I guess
who likes touring? I mean, playing gigs is cool, and having strangers saying nice things about you is cool, but fucking sitting in a van with a hangover is not cool. I don't know. I don't enjoy that part of it. Sleeping on the floor is shit. Nobody can tell me that sleeping on the floor is fun. It just depends on how tolerant you are to intoxicants and how much intoxicants you require in order to tolerate being in a van with a hangover and sleeping on the fucking floor. So
this double-edged sword.
But then again, if you're 22, you might be into all of it because it's all just about the experience. It's all just about, like sleeping on the floor is part of, that crusty music video that's retrospective and makes you feel good. It's like, yeah, we're suffering for the art, and that's why it kicks ass. Oh yeah. I'm like, fuck that. Get me a hotel room near the airport, thanks.
Well, I mean, that's a one cool thing about you. I mean, as well as being like a band member and a writer of music, extreme metal yourself, you actually you're a fan of South African metal, actually, like to the point of actually being like a mark in like wrestling terms. It's like you literally do love the South African metal scene. So personal thoughts on the
Let me check my bio. I just want to check if that's true. I'll tell you this for free. It was easier to love the South African metal scene when you weren't in it. Because I was a long time guy in a rock band, engaging with the metal scene. And even, all of what you just said is incorrect. Even during the TV show, it was a case of, oh, good, we got a TV show that's all about heavy metal. It's like, yeah, cool, great, send me your shit. I'm like, what? It's like, make a music video, send it. We can't. Okay. Then I can't help you. But here's a DOP's phone number who's going to give you an 80,000 Rand music video for $6,000. I would consider using this guy. Oh, no. And then they'll go home and go like, fuck that Louis guy. And then there's obviously the massive controversy of who opened for Metallica, which everyone thinks that I was responsible for. And I was just driving other people's opinion in the public space. But at the end of the day, the biggest sponsor and the biggest name, decision-making name behind who opened for Metallica doesn't play Metallica on their radio station. So, it's just one of those things. So no, it's actually been a very hateful experience being part of the South African metal scene. It's kind of like Ross from Prime Circle. Like he's the guy that will rock up in a trench coat and go watch a metal show. And, and everyone will be like, cool, there's a guy watching this. But like, wait, that's the guy from Prime Circle? Fuck that pussy. It's like, well, no, he's just there to watch you. He actually paid money to come and watch you. Don't be a dick about it. It's just, I don't know. I think to summarize my point, there's always this impression that there's a very small amount of pie when it comes to success in South Africa. And whenever you take a slice away from that pie, like if your band does something, everyone goes, there's one less slice to have. So fuck the guy who took a slice. And like nobody realizes is that, if there's a demand for pie, the pie is going to get bigger. And sometimes, when I was actively on the receiving end of a slice of pie, everyone just turned and did this, like, fuck that dude. It's like, well, try harder, dudes. Learn some skills to help market your shit. And there's a lot of, and I used to give a bunch of talks about this shit. Like, well, here's how to get an EPK together, and here's, spend some money on your recording. And, I walked with every single record label contact that I had, not from band stuff, but from the TV show stuff. And like, here's every Century Media, Relapse Records, Nuclear Blast, A&R guy's email address. You send your shitty demo to that guy and see what happens, and then they're just going to put a nice big red cross next to your name. So there are things you can do with this contact information when you're ready, but don't just assume that you're ready, and then a band like Volvadinia comes around, whether they're into slam or not, fuck, those dudes just do everything right. And it's like, there, copy those dudes, do what they do, spend money on your merch, and yeah, those guys know how to DIY their recordings. But then again, the Pro Tools kind of sound works with their genre, so go for it. They do what those dudes do, or find a version of that works, but don't just take your basement recording and send it out there. And when dudes do better than you, go like, oh, fuck, the band's doing better than me. I try to be a Boy Scout, and too many people called me a puss over the years for me to go disengage. When a band you didn't like won the Viking Metal Battle, then clearly it's rigged. In fact, the guy organizes it. It's like, shit, guys, come on. What you guys miss is that there was so much production that went into it. I didn't make a single cent off of it. Every piece of profit, which was a lot, goes to the band who wins. So they go to Germany, not paying for a plane ticket, not paying for a hotel, and possibly having a lot of beer and food paid for. That's what it's all about, whilst having a light show and a production. But if the band you don't like well, if the band you like doesn't win, then fuck that guy, you know. So it gets kind of hot. I know I sounded very bitter, but I had to kind of refute that comment because it's like, you know, like I was a Boy Scout for a while, and I like anonymously like a bunch of bands. And guess what? When we used to do the Weird Boner shows, it was always about, hey, it's not a metal festival. Let's get as many different genres together as possible. You know, it's like a scene. You know, it's not necessarily a scene with rules. You know, like what if you have a band like Pollinator, and then a band like Mad God or Goat Throne, and then a Soweto punk band, and then Bleeding Spawn, and then The Drift or Facing, and like those are like 8 different genres already in one lineup. And guess what? If you bring 40 people of 8 different scenes together, and dare I say this, and I've said this on podcasts before, and it always sounds very misogynistic when I say it, but when you play in a room full of dudes alone, which is what you'll get when you only play death metal songs, you know, well, you have 10 death metal bands in a row, what you're going to have is that there's going to be 10 men for every man, and less people are going to come next time. Because as much as woke as people like to pretend to be on the internet, if there is not a complement in the general and genderal, you know, kind of front, venues are going to empty out, you know. So if a band like Pollinator brings you know, a different group of people, and you kind of go, fuck, this feels like a vibe now, then, so be it. Fuck, that was an off-track question to like, hey, do you support local metal? Yes and no, fuck you. How dare you ask me that?
You actually did cover some of the stuff that I wanted to talk to you about, because, you know, we've had the whole discussion about your Lamb of God sort of experience off air, and how bitter people can be when you're successful. But for the last question, I want to go complete segue, because, you know, we can't have you on the show without talking game dev and Woodfighter and your experience there.
Cool. So before you ask the actual question, the weird thing about the Lamb of God thing is that before we got announced for Lamb of God, everyone was stoked on us. Everyone's like, oh, there's this new band coming. You know, the marketing, the teaser material, it's all fucking great. You know, everyone was super stoked on it. And then when we got the slot for Lamb of God, because of promoter, because we were sending out videos and EPKs, you know, like all the shit was ready, just wasn't online. We were sending stuff to promoters behind the scenes because you want to launch with a bang. And our plan, back to Lyle's initial comment, was we wanted to play Metal for Africa. And David Furey and Patrick Davidson were very much married with the Ramfest Metal for Africa thing. So because Metal for Africa had their stage at Ramfest, so that's what we were gunning for. We were gunning to try and play any slot in Metal for Africa, because then at least there'll be some gravitas behind your launch. And the promoter for the Lamb of God show says, I like your shit, man. You know, would you be keen to play something else in January? Nothing else was revealed at that point. And we said, good shit, man. You know, it sounds like an international. So yes, of course, we'll play first. It's cool. And, you know, the stuff that worked in public was working behind the scenes as well. And everyone's like, good shit, nice video. And then after, like, fuck that band. You know, so it's kind of, you know, it's difficult. And then you're also under a very stricter microscope. So then people come and watch your first gig, and people now know the songs, and it's your first gig. Everyone gets first gig jitters, and I don't think we were bad in our first gig at all. But like, you know, if there's like a multi-track of vocals and there's only one vocalist on stage, we're like, it doesn't sound like the album, guys. Fuck this band. So yeah, let's talk about game dev and how it ruins being in a band. Because it does. Let's actually speak briefly about Woodfighter, because I know that's been taking up a lot of your time. It looks like pretty much the most accurate representation of a Butt I have ever seen depicted in a game format. I'm like, how much research, how many gyms did you have to go observe these Butts in their natural element to get this together? Only one. You can go to any one and you'll be fine. Research done. It's interesting because Gord is he lives in Five Ways, which is called Douglasdale. but he was in Sunninghill. So it's all like four ways adjacent. Like, so Douglasdale and Sunninghill is like kind of four ways. It's like fringe four ways. But if you go to any of those Pine Slopes venues on a Friday night, like it's almost celebrated the apishness of some dudes that'll, you know, walk around like these massive gorilla Muppets. And if they go and smash a glass in someone's face, they're always going to applaud it, like, yeah, you showed dominance. You show that you care because you glassed a dude in the face and then drove off in your Ford, you know, afterwards, you know, and you got to rev your Ford fucking loudly just to, you know, be considerate to other people so that they know how fast it can go and, you know, what the specs of your car is. Because other people must know these things. It's a sign of respect to rev your car loud and to smash dudes who accidentally looked at your girlfriend not knowing that it was your girlfriend. That, you know, that's how you earn clout in that community. You know,
can't wait for the plots to pan out. Any idea on a potential release date?
It's already out loud.
It's been out for over a year now.
But I mean, the final like the actual like updates that'll be coming. I did hear something that there was some expansions or something like that was going to be coming in the next year or something.
Nah, it's dead. It's dead. No. You know, the budgets only went that far, and there was a lot of stuff planned and contributed. A lot of artwork was finished and handed over, and it just didn't happen. And I guess you can kind of take it personally, but I'm not going to. Again, you know, you have a bunch of people who, you know, have a, you know, like Alec and I talk about this kind of thing all the time. Like, hey, do you want to work on a project? And it's never like, do you want to take over, you know, and make a massive IP by making this thing? You're just going to, hey, this sounds fun. And again, we kind of get signed up for a bunch of stuff that we may not have been ready for. And then people get involved and people take a piece of your pie, and you really think like, well, this is going to work out. We give them a bit of the business and they give us something in return. But if they do what they're supposed to do and we do what we're supposed to do, this is going to work out great. And then it just doesn't, because, you know, for some people it's a business, and it means that, you know, you do as little as possible in the back of other people. And it's kind of hard. What Gordon and I set out to do, we did. You know, we released a video game that was enjoyable and funny and accurately and comedically showcased the concept of Buttfighter. So we did exactly what we set out to do. Now, it's weird because it's now parallels with the music industry. It's like, now all of a sudden, you're a standard bearer for the industry. It's like, no, we're not. We're just a bunch of dudes who in our own time made a thing. You know, and now we're held up to this certain standard. It's like, well, you know, we did the best we can. And some people dropped off earlier than others. And again, that's where it ends, you know.
Sorry, Louis, I'm going to have to interrupt you there because we're
less than 1 minute.
We're less than 1 minute remaining. So, yeah, if it cuts off now, I humbly apologize. But thank you so much for, you know, like joining us, talking shit with us. There's obviously a lot more shit to talk. You know,
we need you back.
We need you back with the rest of the drift.